Last week, we read about God and two angels who visited Abraham. Remember that?
Yeah.
They were on their way to destroy Sodom because of the depravity of the sin in that place. Abraham dickers with God. Will you destroy them if there's only 10 righteous people? And that was interesting because why did Abraham stop at 10 when Lot's family who came out was only 4? And we read the NIV study notes, which were kind of interesting. I don't know if I agree with those notes, just so you know, because it seems a little fishy to me. But still, it does add up to 10.
Well, considering where he started, that was a pretty big adjustment to get down to 10.
The NIV notes indicate there were likely 10 in Lot's family. Lot and his wife, 2 unmarried daughters, plus 2 sons-in-law. So the daughters attached to the sons-in-law would not be the same as unmarried daughters. That's what the NIV version is saying. And therefore, then maybe 2 sons, which would have been typical. So the sons born by Lot's daughters and Noah were the fathers of the Ammonites and the Moabites, who became the traditional enemies of the Israelites for centuries. So that was what we talked about last week.
Oh.
God has taken his time fulfilling the progeny portion. What's progeny?
The kids you're gonna
Kids, having kids after you. So your progeny are your kids and grandkids and their kids. So God has taken his time to fulfill the progeny portion of his covenant with Abraham, right? He's just got Hagar with Ishmael. That's it. He had promised that Abraham's descendants will number more than the stars of the sky and the sand on the seashore. So what's the deal with that? He was old and he hasn't even started having a family yet God's made this promise. How many of you would be able to be faithfully believing that you're going to have any kids when you were 90 years old? Not me. You got to go for it, huh?
I'm not even cooking anymore, much less have kids. Amen.
Right.
Amen.
So Abraham is now 100 years old and Sarah is 90 and they are still childless. That is not including the son of Hagar, who was born 10 years ago. So we begin at chapter 20 with an odd story about Abraham once again leaving his home and heading toward a foreign land. This time Gerar. It's a Canaanite city-state in the western Negev. What's the Negev? It's desert, okay? And Gerar, I'll show you on the map where Gerar is. Famine is not the reason for the journey, as it was for the journey to Egypt. In other words, when he went to Egypt, it was because of famine. That's not in this case. But again, Abraham asked Sarah to say she is his sister. Nothing like repeating what you did wrong years ago. Might as well repeat it again. He's just doing the same wrong again. We're going to see that. Good thing that Abraham is a person like us. Makes mistakes. Okay, Genesis 20, starting at verse 1. Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You're as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Oh, brother. We're going to do this whole same thing again? You wouldn't think Abraham would have learned by now. Careful. I bet there are things in your life that you repeated.
And she's 80 years old.
Why? Maybe that's why he's repeating it. I don't know.
I mean, this is weird.
It is. There will be several Abimelechs as king, just FYI. This Abimelech, you notice, doesn't have a 1 or a 2 after it, so he's the first one. But you're going to see Abimelech multiple times because the generations, his son will be Abimelech the second and Abimelech the third, so there'll be more Abimelechs. And God is going to have to intervene here to spare the mother of his promised offspring. Dreams were a frequent mode of revelation in the Old Testament. Look at verse 3. But God said to Abimelech in a dream. So God actually spoke to Abimelech in a dream. You're as good as dead. What does that mean? Good is dead. We're going to find out. Sodom and Gomorrah are somewhere at the southern end of the Red Sea. Remember on the map we saw before, it looked like it was on kind of the eastern bottom portion of the Dead Sea.
Dead
But
Sea, yeah.
to let you know, we don't really know at all where Sodom and Gomorrah were. We're guessing by the other descriptions because it was completely gone. There's nothing, no artifacts, nothing to tell you that that was where Sodom and Gomorrah was. So just so you know, it's somewhere at that bottom part of the Dead Sea. Look where Gerar is, on the coast. Where was Abraham? In Hebron. Look where Hebron is. So some scholars think that Abraham's moving away from Sodom and Gomorrah. Let's get more toward the coastline. Let's get out of this. Let's get away from this place that I've been.
Weather's better.
What kind of, how many people were there with Abraham? A lot or just a few?
Quite a lot.
Quite a lot.
We know years ago
At
he
least
was able to
400.
have 318 soldiers for an army. So he's big. He's got lots
And
of
their
property.
families.
What he doesn't have are children. But he has a lot of people and he has a lot of animals, and he's kind of someone that the peoples that he's going through their land are going to really respect. They're going to be worried about how those animals are going to eat, because the people who live there are feeding their animals off of that same land. So that becomes kind of a problem, kind of a competition. So that'll be difficult.
If you don't have children, you can afford those kind of things.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. So just FYI, this is the second of the 3 wife/sister stories in Genesis. Okay, number 1, go ahead.
So where was Lot located? I mean, I know he was near Sodom and Gomorrah, but about where was he located?
See the word Hebron,
Yeah,
where the R and the O are?
yeah.
He was like
Around there?
just north of Sodom and Gomorrah. That's where remember he and Abraham talked about where he was going to be, and he wanted to be on that side, and we saw how green it was over there. That's why he
That
wanted to
shows
be.
it's not green there.
Well, because this doesn't show that, but anyway. But anyway, so he was in kind of a green area that was along the sea there, but he was north of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? Okay, now where were we? Okay, so this is the second of 3 wife-sister stories in Genesis. 1, Abraham and Pharaoh. Remember when he told Pharaoh that it was his sister? The second is Abraham Abimelech. That's the one we're going to do today. And then coming up, Isaac and Abimelech the second. So the next generation of Abimelech, that'll be who Isaac deals with, and we see the same thing. In the first, Abraham and Sarah travel to Egypt because of a famine, and God deals harshly with Pharaoh, speaking to him indirectly through a plague and sudden impotence. In the second, Abraham and Sarah travel to Gerar, a city in the western Negev, that's what we're doing today, later to become part of Philistine territory. There, God speaks directly to Abimelech in a dream. And then to come, the third, Isaac and Rebekah travel to Gerar because of a famine. God orders them to do so, telling them specifically not to go to Egypt. And Abimelech the second discovers the ruse by seeing Isaac fondling Rebekah. So another wife-sister story. We'll get to that when it comes. So like the famine that drove Abraham and Sarah to Egypt, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah has driven Abraham and Sarah to flee their home near Hebron and take refuge in the Negev, closer to the Mediterranean coast. This is enemy territory, though. And as in Egypt, Abraham fears for his life. The sister-wife ruse worked before. In fact, it turned out quite well. So Abraham tries it again in Gerar. Now, why doesn't Abraham learn a lesson? We're certainly not like that, are we? Where we have to experience our
I'm
mistakes.
smarter than to do that.
Genesis 20, verse 4. Now Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, she is my sister, and didn't she also say, he is my brother? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands. Then God said to him in the dream, Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Another way of saying he couldn't get it up. He had the same impotence issue that involved the other situation. And God is saying, I did this so that you wouldn't make this mistake. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet. Guess what? Have you ever thought of Abraham as a prophet? In fact, this is the first time God called any man a prophet.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that interesting? We'll have to see how that pans out. Now return this man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die. Well, that's pretty clear, isn't
Clear
it?
dream,
There's
huh?
some incentive there.
What's the deal with prophet? What is a prophet?
Somebody that foretells what's gonna happen.
The future?
That's
Yeah.
one kind.
It's one kind. That's one part of it. What else?
Someone who speaks for God.
Speaks for God, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Abraham really said anything that God said was for the future. We'll have to pay attention to that as we go forward. But he does speak for God because God is using him to build his family, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so far, Abraham's not been a very great, he doesn't seem like a very great person so far. Maybe we'll see some greater things as we go along because he's definitely learning, right? And when you're learning, sometimes you can look a little foolish. You come out with egg on your face.
Yes, I know.
We all know that, right? We've all experienced that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we won't pick on Abraham. Genesis 20, verse 8. Early the next morning, Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" So the great guilt would have been caused by adultery. So everywhere else the Hebrew expression occurs in the Old Testament, it refers to idolatry.
Say
So,
that again?
okay, everywhere else the Hebrew expression, this Hebrew expression occurs in the Old Testament, it refers to idolatry,
Not
which
adultery.
is spiritual adultery.
With idol.
Adultery
Something
and
else.
idolatry are supreme forms of covenant infidelity. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, when you think about
It's
it. yeah.
true. Adultery is breaking a covenant you have with your spouse, right?
Yeah.
And so God considers when you break his covenant, when you don't follow after him the way that you should, it's as if you are committing adultery. You are breaking your covenant with God. That's kind of an interesting connection.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, yeah. Verse 8. Early the next morning, Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from the father's household, I said to her, 'This is how you can show me your love for me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother.'" So Abraham's making excuses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like Adam and Eve's story here. a little
Stretching the truth.
It does sound like Adam and Eve. It does sound like stretching truth. And it sounds like us. Sounds just like us when we try to communicate. I think at our age, we've made the mistake enough that we don't make it as often. But the younger we were, the more times we did this kind of thing to kind of stretch the truth. And as we get older, we kind of learn from those mistakes. So Abraham is learning, and God is teaching him, just like we are learning, and God is teaching us in our lives. Abimelech is furious. He's telling, Abraham, how dare you? All the while Abraham stands silent, looking at his shoes, not knowing what to say. That's kind of the feeling of this. When he finally speaks, it's like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And he starts to justify himself. She really is my sister, but only my father's daughter, not my mother's. And so she became my wife. So Abraham's half-truth was a sinful deception, not a legitimate explanation. Are we going to learn from him? We need to learn this, don't we? We need to be more careful about speaking half-truths to get out of situations. This is a mistake we all can tend to make. The fear of God is a conventional phrase equivalent to true religion. Like if you say someone has the fear of God, that kind of phrase, it's like saying they have true religion. Fear in that phrase has a sense of reverential trust in God and commitment to his revealed will. So we need to be careful about, we think of fear of God as being, so afraid of God. Well, sorta. You need to respect God enough and his power and his authority that you obey him. So it's true religion. It's about being true to God. When we fear God, we're true to God. So that was one of the attacks that Abraham said, well, Abimelech has no fear of God.
So would we assume, though, that when Abraham made this jaunt into this area that he came with hundreds of people?
Yes, lots of people.
Yeah.
And I would imagine Abimelech would be worried about that.
Yeah.
Are they here to have war? Are they here to take over the land? Are they going to graze all the land? I would imagine that would have been a problem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In Sodom, 2 strangers came to town and were assaulted by the natives. Apparently, Abraham thought the same thing would happen here. All foreigners being alike. Like he's almost assuming that they're going to take advantage of him. But Abraham is dead wrong. Abimelech is honest and a good man. Much better than Abraham. He was more noble than Abraham. And in spite of the Sodom episode, Abimelech should not be the object of Abraham's xenophobia. So he's trying to get away from Sodom and Gomorrah and that whole episode that came. So is he then acting fearfully and lying and stuff like that because he's afraid of these people? What should he be more afraid of?
God.
God, yeah.
God could take him out anytime.
Yeah, if only we would remember that. Genesis 20, verse 14. Then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham. And he returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, my land is before you, live wherever you like. So Abraham and Abimelech are living in an honor-shame culture. So by Abimelech compensating Abraham and Sarah, even though it wasn't his fault, it's like he restores his honor, that he did this by mistake. In our Western culture, we base our decisions on right or wrong. You do what is right or wrong, and you have the consequences that occur based on that. But in the Middle Eastern culture, it's about honor and shame. That's why we in the West are often misunderstood by those in the Middle East and vice versa. So if you're talking about right or wrong, you're having a different conversation than if you're talking about things that are shame or honor. Right? It's a little bit of a different nuance. And that's the thing that's happening here. Abimelech's generosity was a strong contrast to Abraham's fearfulness and deception. God's grace is evident as he blesses Abraham despite his failures.
Well, is shame and honor related to right or wrong morality? At least as they perceive it?
It's like a nuance, right? So why did he give him sheep and what does it say that he gave him?
Sheep, goats, cattle.
Sheep, cattle, and male and female slaves, and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah his wife.
And slaves.
And slaves, huh? And Abimelech said, my land is before you, live wherever you like. So to him, he's restoring his honor back because he almost did a very wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
But he's restoring his honor back. Is that the right thing to do? If you're talking about right and wrong? Actually, you should have thrown Abraham in jail. And I mean, if you're talking about right and wrong, right?
Abraham got
Yeah, it could be.
rewarded for his deception.
Yeah, yeah. So it's hard for us to understand this because we tend to be right or wrong. But what they're going off of is honor and shame. So, I don't know.
Well, he had some concept that adultery was wrong,
Yeah,
or at least he'd get in trouble for it, but
right.
even though he was the king of that place.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's kind of, some kings didn't have that scruple.
right. That's right. Verse 16, to Sarah he said, I'm giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated. See, it's about honor, shame from his point of view.
And he didn't
Okay.
say her husband, he said her brother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. That would be because that's the excuse that Abraham gave. So he's saying, you know, he's kind of going on that side to make it a little better.
Yeah.
Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves so they could have children again. So what happened?
Made it to where he can reproduce.
What happened when they were in Egypt? Something struck them all down. They were not able to procreate. They were impotent, just like what happened in Egypt. So here we have again the impotence. They're saying it in a polite way. Look at the politeness of it. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves, so they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all the women in Abimelech's household from conceiving because of Abraham's wife Sarah. So many scholars believe what they're saying here is, again, God stroked them with impotence. They couldn't do it. And that was the same thing that happened. They believe that's the same thing that happened in Egypt. Genesis 21, verse 1. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him. Abraham gave the name Isaac to the son Sarah bore him. When his son Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him, and God commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. What does the word Isaac mean? Laughter. Laughter. Verse 6, Sarah said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh at me. And she added, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. She was probably 90 years old. So the name Isaac means he who laughs. Verse 8.
Maybe the gene pool was better then than it is now.
Verse 8, the child grew and was weaned. And on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham had a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac.
Oh, we got
I'm really disliking.
pettiness here.
I'm disliking Sarah more and more.
Jealousy.
This amount comes up. So the weaning in the ancient cultures, in the Near East cultures, the weaning was a cause for celebration because that's the age between 2 and 3 years old that a child is no longer an infant and they can actually eat food. So it's like a big milestone that they're able to now eat food. So it means they survived infancy, and they can survive now even without that breast milk that they've lived on. So at the weaning party, Sarah notices Ishmael, who is now 16, quote, playing or mocking. Now, Now I'm going to tell you what the NIV Study Bible says, okay? It can also be sexual play like fondling.
Ooh, what
Let's
was
go-
that again? I can't hear.
It can be, that word that can be playing or mocking also can mean sexual play like fondling.
Wow.
Well, you got to figure it had to be something pretty serious because they kicked him out for whatever it was. But I was thinking, I wonder if it could have been because he was in competition now with Ishmael, this son that's coming
Right.
in. And I wonder if he was saying things like, you think you're all that. I wonder if he was saying things like that, like he's taking his place or something.
Maybe exercising his superiority because he's the oldest.
And I
The
could
oldest
see them saying this little one is never going to be in charge because this older one is going to always be trying to take his place. That seemed, but the truth is that they don't know what it was exactly because that word is used for playing, for mocking, and actually for sexual fondling. So we don't know. Okay, so let's go back to the scripture. Verse 8. The child grew and was weaned, and on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. And she said to Abraham, "Get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac." Verse 11. The matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his son. But God said to him, "Do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it's through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring." So God is saying what? I'm going to take care of this. You need to go ahead with this, do what Sarah is saying, but you're going to do it because I'm going to be taking care of this. So how does he take care of it? How does God take care of it? Ishmael, does Ishmael live and become?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it becomes
He's
the head
the
of a
father
nation.
of the 12 Arab tribes. He's the father of the 12 Arab tribes. What is Isaac the father of? The 12,
Jewish
12.
tribes.
the 12 Jewish tribes.
Yeah.
So God did take care of Ishmael. He did do well. His future was certain. Why would God allow this to happen?
We don't know.
I think it's pretty clear. I think that would have been a big competitive issue all the time growing up, an argument going up all the time between the 16-year older son and the younger one. There'd always be that interaction. That's why it makes me think it could have been something like him teasing him and saying, "Well, I can beat you up anytime I want to. What do you think?" I could see that kind of competition being something that would be disturbing to Sarah and Abraham also.
Well, you have that in our families nowadays.
Yes, we do.
I mean, where the children that are even 2 years apart will be in a constant fight against each other because of their personalities.
Right.
The ego thing.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't know, but I was gonna not even tell you about that, but I feel like you should know that word or phrase is described that way, and I figure you're old enough adults to handle it.
Okay.
Genesis 21 verse 14. Early the next morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar. He set them on her shoulders and then sent her off with the boy. She went on her way and wandered in the desert of Beersheba. Has this
Now-
happened to her before?
Yeah.
Wouldn't he have sent some helpers with that lady?
So she went into the desert of Beersheba. What happened the last time? She was pregnant, and Sarai sent her out,
Yeah.
and she was going towards Egypt, and they found her along a stream, and told her she could come back. Right?
Yeah, she asked God, or God spoke to her, something like that.
And in that case, in Genesis 16, when Sarah sent Hagar away because she despised her mistress, there was another. I want to bring that up again. But when Hagar was sent away in Genesis 16:7, An angel of the Lord found her by a spring and told her to go back and submit to your mistress.
Right.
And Hagar's reply was, "You are the God who sees me." Remember that? Now she's sent out with her son who's 16 years old.
She
And
seems to be
she's-
just alone with the two of them.
She is just, just, what do you call that?
Cut off.
Cut off and feeling alone. And she's got a 16-year-old son. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. How do you put a boy 16 years old under a bush?
Tell him to get there.
Get over there. Get
Yeah.
on.
How
Then
did we
she-
get to the 16-year-old?
What?
How did we get to him being 16?
I see, because it's the verse 16. It was the age, it added up, the age added up. She's about 16 years old. And I think it says it somewhere.
I thought he was only 10 years older than I.
He was 10, and then there was the time of the birth, and then the weaning time. And I think he's 16. When I see it, I'll let you know.
Okay.
And so he's not just a baby, he's older. And I think it was look back in this part where it talks about him teasing. Is that when it says he was 16? I can't find it. Maybe I'm wrong.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Does it matter? He's
No.
under a bush.
He's older. Yeah, he's old. He's greater than 10. That we know for sure. I think between 13 and 16. So when the water skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went off and sat down under about a bow shot away, for she thought, "I cannot watch the boy die." As she sat there, she began to sob. This is where they are. They're in Beersheba. Remember, Abraham had come from Hebron. He was over on the coast in Gerar, and now she's come down to Beersheba. And Hagar had been put out once before, and she made her way through the wilderness of Shur, going down to Egypt. Now they're kind of wandering aimlessly in the Negev. I don't know why she doesn't go down the road, why she didn't go down the road she knows to Egypt. She knows that way. She seems to be kind of stunned by the events that occurred. And she's been in Abraham's house 17 years. She bore the eldest son, and now she's being evicted from her home with only some bread and water on her back. Ishmael is heartbroken. This in the notes, it says 16 also. A 16-year-old boy rejected by his father and thrown out of the house. So it's really more of a depression or anxiety or just, everything's collapsed.
Bad day.
Bad day. Genesis 21 verse 17, God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Now, what happened last time? Did the angel speak to Hagar? Is this the second time that God has given Hagar that special attention? He cares about her and about her situation, and he cares about Ishmael. Verse 19, then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. Now, wait a minute. Was there a well of water there before?
Not that she saw.
There probably was there, but she's destitute, right? She's not looking around. She's not
Yeah.
seeing even what's there. So she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. God was with the boy as he grew up. He lived in the desert and became an archer. While he was living in the desert of Paran, his mother got a wife for him from Egypt. Of course, that's where she was from. So the wilderness of Paran, or the desert of Paran, let me see if you recognize this. Do you see wilderness of Paran? What do you think of that area being? You see that area?
Came down in the first place.
Yeah. How about when they came out of Egypt?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the wilderness of Paran is on the east side of the Red Sea. It's modern day Saudi Arabia. And that's where Hagar and Ishmael were at. David sought refuge in Paran. Hadad the Edomite, while fleeing King Solomon to Egypt, went through the wilderness of Paran. Israelites, after departing Mount Sinai, they traveled and pitched their tents in the desert of Paran, and that's where the 12 spies were sent out to the promised land in Canaan, which is where we see Abraham now in the area that would be Canaan, while the people were camped in Paran. When they came back, God allowed that generation of Israelites to die out in Paran, and then he took the generation into Canaan.
There's a lot of barren desert out there, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of like here.
There you go. Yeah.
Numbers 33. Meanwhile, back in the region of Gerar, where Abimelech is king, Hebron is the blue dot. That's where Abraham used to live. And now he is in Gerar, where Abimelech is king. Notice where Beersheba is. It's just a little south of Gerar. Okay? So right here is where Beersheba is. Notice it's just to the northwest of the wilderness of Paran. It's just east of Egypt, a little bit of ways from Gerar, where that king was at, right? Genesis 21:22. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me or my children or my descendants. Show to me and the country where you now reside as a foreigner the same kindness I have shown you. See that shame, that's that culture, honor, shame. Abraham said, I swear. Then Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water that Abimelech's servants had seized. But Abimelech said, I don't know who has done this. You did not tell me, and I heard about it only today. So in other words, Abraham had been using this well for his water source, and some of Abimelech's servants had taken it back and said, this is our well, you can't be using this well. So why would Abimelech want this agreement?
So you'd be in Abraham's good graces.
Abraham's been a liar. He's not told the truth. He's not told the full truth. He's been deceptive. So Abimelech's getting this down. Okay, we're going to get this down, get this straight, exactly what it is going to be. In verse 25, Abraham brings up a new issue. It's almost like he's bringing up an amendment to the deal. They make this deal, and then he brings up the well. Well, no wonder, because Abraham needs water for his flocks and all of his people that he's got. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves? He replied, accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well. Did he dig that well?
No,
Why does he want to have the agreement that I dug this well?
so he'll be able to use it.
So that he can't go back and claim it again. It's like saying, not only do I own this well, I want this like I dug this well. This is my well. You're not going to come back later and say, oh, I've decided I'm going to give it to so-and-so, and you can't, right? He wants it to be as if I dug this well. So that place was called Beersheba because the 2 men swore an oath there. Beersheba means well of the oath or well of the 7. In Jewish culture, the number 7 is something that's considered sacred or, whole, complete. So Beersheba means well of the oath, or another way to say it is well of the 7.
Well, I think it may well be that Abraham and his people dug the well. And he's wanting it to be established. But, yeah.
Uh-huh. The scholars think that he was just saying, you're not lending me this well. This is
Yeah.
going to belong to me. And it's because they could come back later and say, well, we dug this well and we want it back.
Yeah.
So that was what the commentators say. Who knows? 21 verse 32. After the treaty had been made at Beersheba, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. This is the archaeological site of Beersheba in Israel. If you look into the horizon, what do you see on the horizon?
Desert.
Lots of desert. That's where he was settled. No wonder he needed the well. He needed to make sure he had that well. So this region, it looks, I thought it was interesting in the commentary, they said it looks like the desert between Yuma and Phoenix.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
very much.
This is Abram's well at Beersheba. Probably somebody else did all this stonework and all that, but that's the actual well that they had the agreement with. And I found some notes on this section of scripture that I thought that you might find interesting out of the NIV commentary. Ancient Near Eastern culture placed a priority on the firstborn son. The Genesis narrative, by contrast, frequently concentrates on the life of the son born later. Seth over Cain, Shem over Japheth, Isaac over Ishmael, Jacob over Esau, Judah and Joseph over their brothers, and Ephraim over Manasseh. Such an emphasis on God's choice rather than human choice is perhaps the most obvious literary and theological characteristic of the book of Genesis as a whole. It strikingly underscores the fact that the people of God are not the product of natural human developments, but are the result of God's sovereign and gracious intrusion in human history. He brings out of the fallen human race a new humanity consecrated to himself, called and destined to be the people of his kingdom and the channel of his blessing to the whole earth. I thought that was a very interesting, because I had never put all those names together to realize how often he did that, because we keep talking about how normally would be this one, oh, but it's here.
Yeah.
And that happens over and over again through Genesis.
They do that with the kings, that they
Yes.
anoint the firstborn son,
So what does that emphasize?
that it's
God's
God's
choice.
will.
That it's God's choice, not man's choice, not just who inherits it, it's who God chooses to do it. Is that true for us today?
Yeah.
It should be. We should consider God's choice, right?
We probably don't.
Pardon?
We probably don't.
Not as much as we should. A lot of times we don't even ask God
Yeah.
what his choice would be.
But didn't the cultural norm throughout the times of the biblical times still favor the firstborn son and inheritance and other things?
Oh yeah, that was the
Yeah.
that was the standard. You know, when we were searching for a pastor, and Pastor Costello, we found early on, and we all liked him, and it was a very favorable thing. But we thought, well, it's too soon. We need to look more. So we looked more. We looked more. We looked more, and we found some. And then they would be taken out of. They would move, or they got another job, or we found some that we liked, but we never got past the interviews stage with them. We'd go to interview, and then something would happen. They'd be hired at another church or decide they don't want to do it. And we kept looking and looking and looking. And finally we said, we still have Pastor Costello. This is the one that we liked from the beginning. He's still available. He's the one that's come through all of it. It's kind of like that with God. It's like you keep trying to look for, the one, and he's set it aside for you. He's set it up. He'll take care of it. He'll set who it needs to be. It's interesting. Okay, here's another thing. Numbers with symbolic significance figure prominently in Genesis. The number 10, in addition to being the number of sections into which Genesis is divided, is also the number of names appearing in the genealogies of chapters 5 and 11. The number 7 also occurs frequently. The Hebrew text 1:1, it consists of exactly 7 words, and that of 1:2 of exactly 14, which is twice 7. There are 7 days of creation, 7 names in the genealogy of chapter 4, various 7s in the flood story, 70 descendants of Noah's sons, a 7-fold promise to Abram, 7 years of abundance, and then 7 of famine in Egypt, and 70 descendants of Jacob. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Other significant numbers such as 12 and 40 are also used with similar frequency. So I thought that you might be interested to know where I get some of this information. And so I thought that I would show you, if I can do this correctly, I think I can. I want to show you where I get information. I think I have to go over here. All right. Oh, it's up already. Okay, good. This is the scripture text I use, the New International Version, BibleGateway.com. You go in and you can see the scriptural text free when you go to the site. So that's free to see. But then to get these commentaries and things, oops, see what I did here? Gotta get over here. These over here become the resources that you pay an annual membership or subscription. And I usually use the NIV study notes, but like I got that information about the sevens through this beginning part, finding this part right here.
And that cost extra?
Nope. And
No?
it costs to get all of these resources in the package. So here's an example. So that on the sevens and all, I got that from the Introduction to Genesis. And I was able to cut and paste it down here out of the text that they had.
Cool.
But the main thing, like in your Bible, if you have a study Bible,
Uh-huh.
it might have, see if I go down and, I better close this out. Okay. On the study Bible, I choose the NIV Study Bible full notes. And this is like if you have a study Bible and you have the little notes on the side and it'll say number 1, you look over, that's what this is. And then this, oh shoot, I got back to that again. I don't want to go, I'm going to go back here, NIV Study Bible. And then I can go to a verse like 1:1 and I can expand it and it gives me all kinds of notes.
Gives you more information.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
On verse 1:1. So I can go to any of the verses and it can give me more information. So I just wanted to show you this because this is a tool that some of you might like to do, that like to do in-depth study, or if you want to look at word meanings or things like that. That resource is available through BibleGateway.com. And then the other source that I use a lot is Bill Creasy, Dr. Bill Creasy. I just like most of his commentary, but some of it I skip because I like to stick with what the scripture says, not what Dr. Creasy says. But because he'll get off onto all the different religions and what they say, and that's his materials are on logosbiblestudy.com. So if you ever have an interest in looking up Dr. Bill Creasy, those are my 2 main sources of reference. Just wanted to show you that. Anybody have any questions on that?